Is the chairwoman of the charitable organization of which I was a member. Our annual fundraising affair had just taken place. I was getting ready to leave when Mrs. Anderson asked if I could wait a moment. She said she had something important to discuss with me.
Do you recall, about a year ago, reading of my husband's murder?
Yes, it was quite a case.
Quite a lurid case. Is that what you were going to say? Had all the elements of sensationalism. I was in the process of obtaining a divorce from John at the time. Naturally, I was considered a suspect. But the evidence against the nurse, Fran Gibson, was overwhelming.
You testified against the nurse, I believe.
Yes. John had hired her to take care of his invalid sister.
I understand.
The fact that Fran Gibson was convicted of John's murder, well, along with everybody else, I thought she was guilty at the time.
But you don't now.
I don't know. I'm an antique enthusiast, Mr. Merritt. It's my hobby. When I was going through some shops yesterday, I came across this.
Was this among the things that Fran Gibson stole?
It was in the house, along with some other jewelry of mine, the night of the murder. None of the articles was ever found.
And you think this is yours?
John had my monogram put on the back of mine. The fact that there's none on this is the only thing that's different.
It could have been polished off.
I was involved in that murder case, Mr. Maris. Pictures in the papers and so-called intimate details of my marriage. I couldn't go through that again.
Where'd you get this?
I found it in a little shop called Martin's of London. It's run by a man named Barnes. I happened to see it in the window. That's all I could tell the police.
Would you like me to give this to them?
Would you, Mr. Maris? Oh, I'd be ever so grateful.
I'll be glad to. Goodbye.
No luck, Herb. The lab put it through every test. There had been a monogram on it, but it was completely removed.
Well, that alone means something. Somebody wants to be sure this can't be positively identified.
Tell me, Herb, how involved are you in the Fran Gibson case?
I'm not, but if there's a chance the girl's innocent...
Counselor, a year ago, a jury found her guilty of murder. The judge imposed the death penalty. All her appeals were turned down. Now, everybody can't be wrong.
I still want to know the evidence that convicted her.
All right, I didn't handle the case, but I happen to know a little something about it. So let me warn you in advance. If you have any ideas about helping a poor innocent girl, then you better listen to this. At the age of 25, she was mixed up with a confidence gang, served 2 years in prison. She studied nursing during that time. When she was paroled, she forged references and was hired by John Anderson as nurse companion to his blind sister. And Fran claimed she was presented with jewels and money.
Wasn't it proved that he loved her, wanted to marry her?
Well, that's what Fran said, but nobody else knew anything about it. She's a pretty girl.
Lieutenant, what happened the night of the murder?
A few days before, she was contacted by an old member of the gang named Norm Hanlon. Now, he threatened to expose her unless she went in with him on a scheme to rob the Anderson house. She refused, and she said she wasn't going to marry Anderson.
Did she tell Anderson about the attempted blackmail?
Not a word. On the night of the murder, she secretly left. Not really to run away, but to make Norm Hanlon think that she had.
Well, it's possible, isn't it?
Well, anything's possible, but she was picked up the next day at the station. She had the jewels and money on her. which we traced back to Anderson.
Wasn't there anybody in the house to help witnesses to the truth of her story?
Well, there's only one other person living there, Helen. And being blind and half paralyzed, she didn't know what was going on in the house.
The murder gun. It was never found, was it?
No. But Fran had plenty of time to dispose of it.
Seems to me the case is largely circumstantial.
What about the phone operator? She heard Anderson's last words, Fran. Now, if that isn't an accusation, I've never heard of one.
How'd he happen to call the operator?
He was dying, the phone was in front of him, so he picked it up.
And dialed?
No. Because of the blind system, they have special phones that connect directly with the operator. They also serve as an intercom in the house.
What was Fran's motive for killing Anderson?
Well, the DA figured that she'd been robbing him ever since she started to work for him. Anderson caught her. So she realized that a second felony conviction would mean 10 years, so she gambled on getting away with murder.
Well, that could make her story even more credible.
How? Without the monogram, it couldn't be traced back to Anderson. Mrs. Anderson said that she wasn't positive herself.
I think she was. She just doesn't want to be involved in the case again.
Maybe she's smarter than you. Yeah, but I think you're wasting your time.
Well, then an hour or two more won't matter, what?
Doing what?
Mrs. Anderson said she got this from a Mr. Barnes. I'd like to see where Mr. Barnes got it.
Wish I could help you, but I don't remember.
Okay, let's check back any receipt books and find out.
For sure, Lieutenant. But it might take me a day or so. I got all my old books put away.
I want it today.
Okay, whatever you say, Lieutenant. Hope I can help you.
So do I.
This is Barnes. Listen, remember that locket you sold me? Well, a cop was just in here asking about it, with a lawyer, Maris. Of course not. I knew how to handle them. But you'd better be careful.
Lieutenant Weston. Oh, yeah, Joe. Are you sure? Good, thanks a lot. Score one for our side, Counselor. The original item had been erased and the locket written in its place.
And Barnes never issued a ticket for it.
Right. He took an item he knew had a phony name and address, erased it, and written the locket in its place, knowing we couldn't trace it any further.
Well, it looks as though we're finally getting someplace. Miss Gibson, my name is Maris. I'm an attorney.
I know all about you, Mr. Maris. It's like my prayers have been answered.
I don't like to arouse any false hopes. I haven't found anything to disprove your guilt.
But you will. I know it.
What was your relationship with John Anderson?
He wanted to marry me.
Were you in love with him?
I liked him. He's the only man who ever mentioned marriage to me, and meant it.
What was your reason for leaving the house so suddenly?
There was this guy, Norm Hanlon. Used to know me in the old days. He phoned me one day at the house. Says he wants to talk to me. I was afraid he might come over, so I met him one night.
And you were seen with him?
No, I picked me up in his car. We drove around. He said he knew John's wife had collected a lot of valuable antiques, and he had a plan to rob the Anderson house, wanted me to help him. I told him I wouldn't, that I was going to marry John Anderson. He laughs at me. Says if I don't help him, he'd fix me but good.
What do you mean by that?
Well, he has this idea that I forged the references I used to get the job.
You did forge them, didn't you?
Yeah. It was wrong, I know it. I don't suppose you'd understand. Last time I was in prison, I studied nursing, so I could get a decent job when I got out. I even graduated with honors. But it's not enough. You've got to have references. I couldn't see it any other way. But I wasn't going to go back to prison. That's what I told Helen. I didn't want any part of him or his plans. Well, after this nursing job, there'd have been other jobs for me. Sick people, invalids that had to trust you. I'd have been running for the rest of my life.
What happened then?
Well, Norm calls a couple of times more, threatening me if I don't help him. All right, I was scared. I figured if John knew I'd served time, that I'd lied to him, he wouldn't want to marry me. So one night, I phoned Helen.
From the house?
Yeah, it was late. I knew John and his sister were both asleep. I told Helen I changed my mind about marrying John, that I was leaving the house the next night. I figured it was the only way I could get Helen to leave me alone.
The following night, Anderson was killed.
I waited until I got Miss Helen off to bed. That was about 8 o'clock. Then I picked up my things and left. I knew John was in his study. I didn't see him, but I knew he was there.
According to the coroner's report, Anderson was killed at 11 p.m. Where were you at that time?
I don't remember. I honestly don't, Mr. Maris. I know I walked the street for hours.
Where were you going?
I hadn't decided. I thought maybe by going away just for a couple of days, I might get Helen to think I'd left permanently.
How do you account for the fact that the police were unable to locate Hanlon?
He uses a lot of different names. Maybe he slipped out of town, I don't know.
Tell me, you recognize this?
Yeah. Belongs to Mrs. Anderson. Used to have a little monogram on it right there. I'd know it anywhere. Miss Helen used to like to sit and hold it. Talk about how beautiful it was. Yeah. The cops. The cops say this is one of the things I stole. Where'd you get it, huh? Well, doesn't this prove I'm innocent?
Not by itself, it won't. But it may lead to something. I'll be in touch with you very soon.
How soon, Mr. Maris? My schedule's getting tighter. I wouldn't want to miss you.
I'll see what you know. I'd given hope to a condemned woman, but I was all too aware that Fran Gibson's life depended on the story of a man who could not be found and the identification of a small gold locket by a blind woman. Time was growing short. My name is Maris, Miss Anderson. I'm an attorney. I'd like to talk to you about Fran Gibson, if you can spare a few minutes.
Time is the only thing I have left, Mr. Maris.
Time is one thing that Fran Gibson doesn't have.
It's ironic, isn't it? Doesn't seem fair. I have so little to live for, and... Won't you sit down, Mr. Maris?
Thank you.
How can I help you?
I'd like to know about Fran Gibson.
All I can say is that I knew her to be a very kindly, sincere, and decent person. I grant you her facade was hard and shrewd. Those are traits of survival that are due to environment.
Do you think she killed your brother?
Let me put it this way. 25 years ago, there was an automobile accident. My brother was driving. I was left like this at 21. I was dead, but they refused to bury me. All I had left was John and 25 empty years. Fran Gibson made one of those years less empty. How could I possibly think she'd want to kill my brother?
I understand. Do you think you could recognize this?
I'm not sure. Is it a piece of jewelry?
It's a gold locket. We think it's the one that belonged to your sister-in-law.
Couldn't Paula identify it?
The monogram's been removed. Fran Gibson said you used to hold it. I thought perhaps you could positively identify it by touch.
I'm sorry, Mr. Maris. The sight is still the most important sense for things like this.
I'll get it. Hello?
Herb, your office told me you were there. Listen, I got some good news for you. I've just had a long question and answer session with Mr. Barnes. He admits being a fence, and guess who he says sold him the locket? Norm Hanlon.
Hanlon?
He gave us his address. We're going to try to pick him up.
Hanlon? Police. I want to talk to you. You made a mistake, mister. My name's Smith.
I don't care what name you're using now. Your friend Barnes talk. Now put your hands against that wall. Now, Hanlon, evidently you don't hear so good.
What are you trying to do? I'm clean.
Clean, huh? A 32 caliber gun, huh? Well, Hanlon, I thought you said you were clean. I suppose somebody planted this on you, huh?
I found it. I'm no gunman.
You might have been one.
What are you talking about?
John Anderson was killed with a bullet from a .32 caliber gun.
You can't pin that on me. You got the dame who did it.
They never found the gun. This could make quite a difference, couldn't it, Lieutenant?
Yes, sir. It could mean a new candidate for the death house.
Hey, what are you trying to do? Frame me?
Looks legitimate to me, the gun and the locket. Your friend Bonds talked his head off. You got that locket from the Anderson house, didn't you? Anderson caught you and you had to kill him. That's what happened, isn't it?
No! I bought it. Say, help me, I bought that locket.
Why didn't you tell us you found it like you did with the gun?
I'm leveling with you. I tell you, I bought it.
From whom?
Fran Gibson.
When was this?
About a week before she killed the guy. She made a date to meet me one night. Said the joint was loaded with valuables, but she needed somebody to help her pull the heist. I told her I was on the straight and narrow. She still tried to talk me into it. She showed me that locket. Said it was just a sample of what we could pick up. So help me. That's exactly what happened.
Come on, Alan, let's go downtown, and on the way, maybe you'll like to think of a brand new yarn.
Oh, I know you guys. You'll rouse me around and tell me what you want me to say. But that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Well, you're stuck with it. Herb, I got the lab report. The gun. It wasn't the one that killed Anderson.
He's still sticking to his story, huh?
Yes, I haven't told him about the gun yet. We're still claiming it's a murder weapon, figuring if he's lying, he might change his story to avoid a murder rap.
What happened?
Good news for a change, Herb. He admits robbing the Anderson house the night Fran left.
Was Fran in on it?
He says no. The loot's hidden in the backyard. He's digging it up now. Here, I'll give him the key for that. Well, Hanlon, looked like you finally got around to telling the truth. This is the missing jewelry.
Then Fran wasn't in on it.
Her story was on the level. I knew she was leaving the house that night. I figured it was a good time to pull it off. I was burned up at her. I knew she'd be blamed.
And while you were there, you ran into John Anderson.
I never even saw him. I was upstairs. There was this shot. Then I heard somebody come out of the library, laughing. Strange laugh.
You see who it was?
I didn't care. I just wanted to get out of there.
Take him back to the car. We'll be within a minute. Well, Herb, I guess this just about washes it up. He committed the burglary, but that's all. Everything still points to Fran as the murderer.
I don't think so.
Now, wait a minute, Herb. If Anderson's body had been found elsewhere in the house, it would be different. But even Hanlon would have sense enough not to go to the library when all he had to do was walk out of the back door with an armload of loot.
I agree, but I wasn't thinking about Hanlon. Lieutenant, have you been up to the prison lately? Fran, this is Lieutenant Weston of the police. He's been trying to find some evidence to help you.
I'm going to die. Honor, Mr. Maris.
I don't think so, Fran.
You know, Mr. Maris, it's almost funny. I've become a very valuable property here at prison since you took my case. They got bets running on me down on the road. I'll tell you, I just want somebody to tell me it's over.
Fran, do you think Helen could be capable of murdering her brother?
Miss Helen?
Oh, look, Herb, you're reaching. The woman's blind and half paralyzed. We've got the word of the doctors on that.
But her brother was responsible for that blindness and paralysis. And Helen isn't as helpless as she wants other people to think. Is she, Fran?
Well, I don't know.
Yes, you do, Fran. Now, Helen's been blind for nearly 25 years, hasn't she? And blind people develop other senses in compensation for the loss of sight. In fact, Helen does pretty well by herself when other people aren't around to help, doesn't she?
Yeah. Yeah, but anybody with a disability like hers needs attention, sympathy. Oh, sure, she lets people...
Helen pretended she couldn't hear me move around the room. Was that a customary device for attracting attention?
No. No, it wasn't.
That doesn't prove anything, Herb.
You don't want it to prove anything. I thought you said he was trying to clear me.
You listen to me, Miss Gibson. I'm trying to find evidence to help clear you. Even if Helen Anderson did have a motive for killing her brother, only one shot was fired. How could she be sure that that one shot would kill him?
I think this is something that Helen's been working on for years.
You're forgetting one thing. What about John Anderson picking up the phone and accusing Fran?
But he didn't accuse her. I had a chance when you telephoned me to examine that telephone at the Anderson house. When he was calling out Fran's name, he was actually calling her for help.
Of course. He must have thought I was still in the house. And he died before he could push down the button for my room. He was always complaining about those buttons being a nuisance.
Think of the thought, precious Lieutenant. The woman has 25 years to build up a festering hatred and a plan for revenge.
Sounds very logical, Herb, but can you prove it?
No, I can't. I was sort of depending on you for that.
Well, I might have some answers. That'll prove it. Disprove it. There's no reason to disturb Miss Anderson. Just let her know we're coming by tomorrow morning to check the library. We found out that Mr. Anderson had a special tape recorder hidden in his desk, and it's just possible it might have picked up something in the murderer's head. Yes, tomorrow morning.
Pretty far-fetched, Lieutenant.
Well, more so than your theory that she did it. If she was laughing like Hamlin said, she'll want to get to that tape before we do.
How do we get inside?
Search warrant. And the skeleton key.
Good evening, Mr. Maris. I know you're there, Mr. Maris. And you have a gentleman with you. A policeman, I suppose.
I'm sorry we had to do this, Helen.
I understand. It was all my fault for believing that stupid story about a tape recorder. At least it saved Fran. I hadn't intended to have her accused. I'd planned on having it look like suicide. But John's picking up the phone ruined it. I'd practiced for so long.
Just one more thing, Miss Anderson. What did you do with the gun?
I didn't do anything with it. I have it right here. Don't, officer. You can have it in a moment. But I need it for the coup de grace. That last moment of truth.
That won't solve anything, Miss Anderson.
On the contrary, Mr. Maris. All the time that I'd planned to kill my brother John, I thought it would solve everything. That by destroying him, I'd get rid of the hatred and bitterness within me. But I discovered that these were the only reasons that I was kept alive. Now there's no longer any reason.
I'm sorry. No one person has the right to decide who lives or dies.